So this is Trading 101 day 13, and in this video we're going to be going over liquidity. Liquidity is super important. I think it's the most important concept when it comes to trading. That's kind of why we've held off, because I like to go over the other confluences a little bit more. This is going to be a three-part video, I think, because this is a super important topic. So we'll see a lot of reversals in the market. We'll see, you see price going this way, keeps going this way. Why does it reverse, right? So this is really going to help us. This is the strongest confluence I think there is when it comes to trading. If I don't see this get swept or whatever, we'll talk about that in a later video. I don't even place a trade. So this is a super important confluence, and we are going to be going pretty in depth with this. So what is liquidity? Liquidity is areas in the chart where a lot of orders were filled. So in essence, there were a lot of people entering and exiting the market within the same time, which means there's a lot of sell orders, there's a lot of buy orders, right? There's a lot of volume in the market. And why should we know this? Well, these are the strongest price magnets on the charts. Obviously, like I've said, for value gaps are very strong. Order blocks are very strong. These are significantly stronger, and price will always seek these out. Will seek to take these out, and you can find a lot of market reversals based on these areas, right? So you'll see a ton of bullish momentum up, and then all of a sudden it'll crash, and you're like, why did this happen? It's because liquidity got swept. So obviously, I'm not going to be saying going into depth what that is. This is a lot of showing on the charts. I don't want to take pictures like screenshots and put them over in the corner like I have been before. I really want to show these on the charts so that way you guys can see these. And why is it important? Well, liquidity can show us where price is likely to go. Again, these are the strongest areas, especially on the high time frames. These will get seeked out every single time, day in and day out. Now, is it going to get seeked? Is it going to get destroyed? Is it going to get taken out the same day? No, but eventually will. And these are super strong confluence. So like I said, we're going to go on the charts. Again, this is, I think, more important to show within the charts versus trying to explain it, right? So we are on the hourly time frame. I will usually either mark draws of liquidity within the 1 hour or the 4 hour. Now, draws of liquidity can technically be considered highs and lows. So that's what I like to see. But we have, it's kind of hard to tell what it is if you've never been told about it. So I will be showing examples. So a draw of liquidity, I think a lot has to do with the wick of the candle, right? So if we have a large candle like this and a large wick, this is a valid draw of liquidity. So there were a lot of orders being filled. There was a lot, going on in this area, right? So I will mark this area out, right? So this was a super strong draw of liquidity. We saw it got swept, but again, like I said, price is going to want to take out that area. We have another really strong one right here. This was recently made. So we'll mark this out right here, right? So we see this large wick. We see a lot of volume, right? So this is a big doji candle, but this is the opposite of minimal volume, right? This is a lot of volume, right? We have a lot of people buying. We got a lot of people selling, right? We have a whole lot going on in here. So this was a super strong draw of liquidity, and it was on the 4 hour. So this is a really strong draw of liquidity. We have another one that actually was just made. So this was the second. This is the new 4 hour candle. This is the most recent one. So I'm going to actually take the magnet out here and mark this. It's a little bit easier so I can get the top of it. Yep, but this is the most recent draw of liquidity on the 4 hour. So I'm going to go on the smaller time frames and actually show you kind of like what goes on around these price ranges. So if we go onto the 5-minute chart here, and we see, actually I would like to mark out a higher time frame draw of liquidity and see what happens once we go into these areas, these draws of liquidity. So I do remember the other day we had a really nice one, but I'd like to see. Let's see. Yeah, so this was one of them right here. So we have a really good example of this. So we have a high formed here, right? We have this draw of liquidity. We actually have a couple scenarios of this. I don't know why I took a trade this late in the day, but again, so we have this draw of liquidity up here, and then we also have this draw of liquidity here. This is obviously not nearly as strong as, this is kind of like equal highs, but this made a high. So I'm going to remove this so you can see. So we have this right here, right? So we have this draw of liquidity right here. We have this draw of liquidity right here. What happened? This wick of the candle shot straight up. So I'm going to mark this and took it out. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you what that means yet, but I'm going to go on the smaller time frame, and we're going to see how aggressive this move was to the downside. Oops. move my spot. Yep, right here. So we have both highs get made right here. Right, so we have these highs get created. We have this high from London session. We have this high from previous New York session. We see a sweep and then an initial move down on the 5-minute, and we see price retrace back up, sweep these highs out again, and we get a strong reversal. But we saw during all of London session, what was London session doing? It was going the opposite direction. It was going up. We had a shit ton of chop, and then we tanked down in New York session. We retraced back up in this area and moved back down. So, like I said, these are strong magnets. Price, obviously, like we say, oh, we form this high, we drop back down, okay, chop. We seek back this area and move back down. Is it going to look like this every single time? No. Sometimes it looks really choppy. Sometimes it looks really ugly. You know, we see a lot of candlesticks and not a lot of movement. But like I said, again, we have another great example right here. I'm going to mark this out, but it's probably a high time frame low that got swept very hard. Yeah, it was. Yep, perfect. So this is another great example. This is to the opposite side, so this is the downside. So we have this really strong draw of liquidity right here. What happened? Well, eventually, right at the end of London session, actually the very, very end of London session, we got a sweep, so we had price go below this and move back, rally up. So we will, I'm going to go over what all that kind of more or less means. Like liquidity getting swept and, you know, a reversal, I guess. It doesn't make, I guess, a whole lot of sense right now for a lot of people, but it will, in the long run, it will eventually. So I'll make sure everybody understands that. But for now, that's basically it for liquidity. It's areas where there is a ton of buy orders, there's a ton of sell orders, right? There's a lot of people moving in and out of the market. I think that's the most important thing you understand is a lot of people moving in and out of the market. And then there's an area where a lot of people are moving in and out of the market. Price will always want to draw back to those areas.